Hi everyone, this is Miss S from Excelsior Charter School, and today we're going to be covering Geometry, Quarter 3, Quiz 3. And just like always, we've changed the values a little bit. Let's go ahead and get started. This first question wants to know the length of the missing side, and there are 3 of these types of questions on the quiz. Since it's a right triangle, and they've given us 2 of the sides but none of the other angles, we can use Pythagorean theorem to solve for this type of problem. Remember that the side across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. And so we'll put the other 2 sides, and we can call this third side x or whatever variable you want. And don't forget to square all of those. And then we use our algebra to solve for x. And what you get is that x equals the square root of 288. But don't forget that 288 can be broken down into the square root 36 times 8. And 36 is a perfect square. And the 8 can be further broken down into 4 times 2, with 4 being a perfect square. And we take those perfect squares out. What we get is the 6 for the 36 and a 2 for the 4. And 6 times 2 on the outside is 12. And what we're left with is 12 radical 2. The next question is going to use the same triangle as the first one here, but they want to know how much further is the direct route across the hypotenuse here rather than going around the corner this way. So if we were to take the 21 plus the 12 radical 2, they want to know how much shorter it would be to just take the hypotenuse route. So when you add the 2 legs together, you get a total of about 38. And then if you take that 38 and subtract the direct route, the hypotenuse, what you'll get is about 11. Our next question wants to know, how do you know if 3 lengths can make a right triangle? So in the question in the quiz, they're going to give you a bunch of 3 lengths, but what you need to do is put them into the Pythagorean theorem and see if it makes it true. So here's one that they give you, 34 inches, 16 inches, and 30 inches. Remember that your hypotenuse is always the largest, so your hypotenuse squared will always equal your 2 legs squared and added together. And in this case, 1156 does equal 1156, so these would make a right triangle. Our next one wants us to classify the triangle as right, acute, or obtuse. So the one that we just did gave us 3 lengths, and they were equal to each other, so that made a right triangle. If c squared is less than a squared plus b squared, it's an acute triangle. And if c squared is greater than a squared plus b squared, it's an obtuse triangle. So with these 3 here, the 6 would be the largest, so it would be our hypotenuse. So remember our hypotenuse squared, and I'm just going to put an equal sign in there just to hold the place. And then let's solve this. So when we solve, we see that 36 does not equal 41, so it's definitely not a right triangle. And instead, 36 is less than 41, which makes this an acute triangle. For our next problem here, they want us to solve for each variable in the 30, 60, 90 triangle, and there are 2 of these on this quiz. Remember, if they only give you the 90-degree angle and the 30-degree angle, it is safe to assume that the other one is 60 degrees because they have to add up to 180. So in the 30, 60, 90 triangle, the side across from the 30 degrees is the smallest leg, and the side across from the 60 degrees is the longest leg. Since that's what they've given us here, this is actually going to be a rather tricky problem to solve. Because remember, in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the shortest leg, in this case x, is equal, the longest leg, 11, in this case is equal to the shortest leg, x, times radical 3. So when we go to solve this for x, we will divide both sides by radical 3, but remember that you can't have radicals in denominators. So in order to solve for x, we actually have to rationalize both of these by radical 3. And what we'll get is 11 radical 3 over 3 for the value for x. And in order to solve for y, we'll have to remember that it's the shortest leg, in this case x, times 2. And since we just learned that x is 11 radical 3 over 3, we have to multiply that by 2, and what we get is 22 radical 3 over 3. And that's our solution for x and y. And then our last ones are also two of the questions on the quiz. They want us to solve for the variables in a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So remember, in these triangles here, both of the legs are going to be the same because this is an isosceles triangle. Therefore, our x value is already 7 radical 2. And in order to solve for our hypotenuse here, remember that our hypotenuse is always the leg times radical 2. So when we substitute in the 7 radical 2 for the leg, then we have to times it by radical 2. And when we do that, both of the radical 2's are inside the radical, so you can actually multiply them together. And what you'll get is that it's 7 radical 4. Radical 4, of course, is just 2. And so what you have is 7 times 2, which is 14. Good luck, everybody. I hope you guys all do great.